Working with my children on their character has always been a top priority in our homeschool. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm a mom to 4. I love to homeschool. I also love to read good books, and I like to share both of those things on this channel. So if you also like those things, please consider subscribing and joining the community. So today's video is a comparison video. I love making these videos, and you guys love watching these videos. So today's video is about my character curriculum. And the first character curriculum I'm going to be highlighting and sharing today is simply Charlotte Mason's Laying Down the Rails for Children, a habit-forming companion. This is a pretty popular one. I feel like a lot of people use it. We're also using this one. It's Character First Education. And you pick out the different character traits. So I had honesty, obedience, and a couple others. And I'll share more about that in just a second. And I plan to do just kind of a general comparison. I'm gonna flip around and show you inside both curriculums so you can see them. And then I'm gonna take a little time to describe my plans for going forward, what curriculum we're gonna be using, and my thoughts on both of these curriculums. So definitely stay tuned till the end because I have thoughts to share on these curriculums. So, all right, first things first, general comparison. So the first question I had was, how many different character traits do these curriculums cover? With the Simply Charlotte Mason program, there's a book 1 and a book 2, and it covers, I think, somewhere upwards of 60 different character traits. And she has them broken down into propriety habits, so cleanliness, courtesy, kindness, manners, gentleness, generosity, mental habits, so attention, memorization, observation are just a few. Moral habits, so obedience, reverence, self-control, physical habits, so you're talking health, managing your own body, self-control, and religious habits, so Sunday keeping, Thanksgiving, thoughts of God. So those are some just examples that are in this curriculum. And then as for Character First Education, I forgot to count, so I will count and put it down below here. But I think there's around like 40 or 50 different character traits or different character booklets that you can pick up to highlight a specific trait. And there's some very similar ones. So I picked up obedience, generosity, responsibility, and honesty for this year. So the second thing I want to compare is Laying Down the Rails is religious. It's definitely a Christian program. It follows a lot of Charlotte Mason principles, and she was Christian. And so that is definitely interwoven throughout all of the different character traits and lessons. As for Character First Education, this is written for the public school, and so it is not religious in any way. I don't know if I would call it secular. I would just say it's not religious. And another thing to compare is, I would say, length of study, like how long does it take you to get through each of these different studies. So if you're doing obedience and Character First versus obedience and Laying Down the Rails, I would say they're about the same amount of time. It depends on how you break down these lessons, because some of them I feel like I've taken more than one day on. In the Laying Down the Rails books, I feel like they tend to have about like 12 lessons. And what she has said is to plan about 8 weeks per habit for this curriculum. And like I said, this doesn't really say, but I feel like it's roughly about that same amount of time. Last thing is cost. So it just really depends on how you pick it up. So with the Laying Down the Rails, I picked up the whole set. So there's 2 books, a teacher's guide, and a DVD. And I think it was somewhere in the 70s when I did it. And for Character First Education, it's a little harder to nail down exactly how much it costs, because there is a ton of free resources. You could probably do this whole curriculum without paying for any of it. It's all accessible online. They have a basic library you can set up a membership to and not pay any money, and you get really, really good resources. But if you want, say, the poster and the teacher's guide that like I picked up, and I'll show you more about that in just a second, then it costs a little bit more. So I think these were $9.99 each for the whole family pack. And let me just flip through these resources to show you how they're set up and see which you might like better. Okay, I'm gonna flip you around. So to take you through the curriculum, here is Simply Charlotte Mason's Laying Down the Rails. When I ordered this is what I got. I received 2 books that are more of the guidebooks, and then this is the handbook. This is more written towards parents, and it pulls in a lot of quotes from Charlotte Mason's books. So for instance, here it's Charlotte's Thoughts on Remembering. So these are the different quotes that came out, like volume 1, page this, page that. So she has all the references. So it's basically taking Charlotte Mason's 6 books and pulling out the different references to all of these different character traits, which I think is amazing and so helpful So I have loved this book. It really is written towards the parents, and it is excellent for that. And it's excellent also just to be able to consider for yourself, how well are you doing at this habit? How well are you modeling this for your kids? And so this curriculum has definitely helped me to ask myself those questions. And the other thing that comes with the program is this workshop DVD, which I listened to and I loved it. It's really encouraging. It's by Sonia Schaefer, and she just kind of walks you through why you should habit train and how to do it. It's really, really fantastic. These are more supportive materials, and this is more the curriculum. And if you see at the very beginning, it shows you contents where it goes through the different books, like book 1. Here are the different habits that are covered through there, and I'll go slowly in case you want to take a screenshot of those. And there's book 2's habits. I will just take you through obedience, which is, like I said, what we were working on first. So when you open up to the page on obedience, it first gives you the definition, and then it has some parent prep, which I really like this. So it helps you, before you enter into the 8 weeks of this habit training with your kids, you can sit down and you can think through some goals. You can think through a person in your life, an example of someone that they know who has exhibited this trait. There's additional stories or quotes you can pull from, and so I had a couple books that were on our shelves. And you can see here I just wrote down some memory verses like Ephesians 6, 1-3, and Hebrews that we are going to try to memorize during our morning time, memory time of the day. And then you can have some ideas for celebrations. What are some ideas for keeping this habit going and not just switching and forgetting sort of idea? So anyway, to take you through a little further, so then it's set up in lessons. So you can see lesson 1, lesson 2, 3, 4, all the way down. So these are notes to really remind you what is said in this book. So what are some of Charlotte Mason's quotes? Like, make obedience a top priority, even more important than academics. And some are poems, like this one's a poem. Others are stories, like we really liked this big story, Dr. Johnson and his father. It was kind of long, but it was impactful for my son. So you can see it had up to 12 lessons, and then the 12th lesson is kind of some extra ideas, some extra Bible stories that you can talk with your kids about obedience. I hope that was helpful, and let me switch over to Character First Education now. All right, so this is what I received when I ordered the family packs for these 4 character traits. So obedience, honesty, generosity, responsibility. With each of those, you get the teacher's guide, and I'll go through this in just a second. You get some cards. They come with 5, I think. Yep, 5 for each. And you give them to your kids, and so they can kind of keep them and look at them, and they have the I will statements, which I'll show you in just a second. So this is great. I feel like these are ways to strew this idea throughout your home and throughout their lives so they don't forget about it. And then you also get a poster, which I really like, and I realize I can't kind of get all the poster in, but it's not huge. And I have put this on our board in our homeschool room, and it has these I will statements as well, very large, as well as the definition for, say, responsibility in this case, and the main animal that's highlighted. So I'll take you through the obedience one because we are pretty much finished with this, and we have just really, really enjoyed it. So let me run you through this teacher's guide and show you how it's set up. Set up in different sections. I just really stretched this out. It really starts with you defining obedience and discussing it and rediscussing it, and then you do a project to kind of make it tangible. And we did this. We made the little parachute man out of a napkin and those pipe cleaners. So it was very easy to do. And we just spent a decent amount of time on this page really defining it, talking about it. Section 2 is really to practice it, and I think we spent the most time here. And this was excellent. So it gives you ways to think about giving them special duties or rewards for exhibiting obedience and things like that. And then here's those I will statements. And this was probably where we camped for the longest, is we would just talk through each of these 4 till they really understood them. And we did this project, which I really like, which I put out here, is I printed them. I went on the website, I printed them out on cardstock, and this has been great, because they actually play with this often. It really reminds them what the 5 I will statements or the 5 obedience keys are, like they like to call them. And so we just keep doing that. And then there's some good scenarios here, which I'll talk about. I just really, really liked these scenarios. There's a poem. So this, where you went online, we went online and we listened to the video about the poem. And here is section 3 is obedience in real life. So that is what you get when you're ordering some character first education materials. It's fantastic. I hope the look inside was helpful for you to see both curriculums if you're considering a character curriculum for your family for homeschool. Now I want to share a bit more about my story, kind of where we are. So when I initially wanted to add character study into our homeschool, I picked up Laying Down the Rails. So I picked this up last year when my son was 5 and my daughter was 4, and we started using it, and it just kind of went over their heads a bit, or the stories weren't engaging enough for their ages, and I didn't quite know how to roll with it much myself. So I kind of dropped it for a while, and I was like, okay, well, we'll come back to it because I really liked it. I really liked the idea behind it, the principles of integrating your faith in all of these habits to form these habits early on in life. So enter this year. What I decided to do was pick back up Laying Down the Rails, as well as add in character first education, because I had heard about this program. I was intrigued by it. I wanted to pick just a few character traits to work on for this year. And so we started with obedience. We're almost done with it, and I've loved it. So what I did was I kind of set up a little bit of a character loop in our morning basket, basically where we do a little bit of Laying Down the Rails. We do a little bit of character first education, and we would just loop it between, and I would pull the best from both. What I found though was, again, I could not draw my kids into this. They seemed to have the toughest time paying attention or really listening or caring. And I feel like part of it was me. I struggled maybe to make some of the Bible stories more relevant. I would read it out and we'd talk a little bit about it, but I didn't quite see the connection on all of it. And it is hard. It's hard to kind of pull out a specific story and be like, this is what you need to learn about obedience. It's just a little less tangible for the age of my kids. So I still think they're a little young for this program. I could be wrong. I would love to hear other people's experience with Laying Down the Rails, because I love the idea of the program so much. It's just not really working very well, especially in comparison to character first education. This has been a fantastic program. I have loved all the activities and poems and songs. I feel like my kids perk up. They pay way more attention when we do anything out of this program versus simply Charlotte Mason's. And so I'm just not sure if this is really geared better towards the elementary age kid or my kids. And just using certain things like this activity or the parachute activity has really helped them just engage with it and remember it. And we talk about it, and they actually just kind of play with this kind of stuff. And then there's those online resources with the poem and singing the song, and they kind of remember obedience and leadership, and they kind of can do all the hand motions, and they just really, really enjoy it. So I like that. I love that. But I would say my favorite part as a mom is there's these scenarios built into this curriculum. I think I was showing you this part where it was talking about the different keys to obedience. So there was the 5 keys to obedience, and then you get to give them these scenarios. So it's say your parents tell you to take the trash out today and you do it tomorrow. Is that obedience? And they're like, no. And I'm like, but why? Which one of these 5 is that not following? So some of them are okay, clarifying instructions. So say somebody tells you to do something that you shouldn't do, or it's wrong, but it's an authority figure, so you can clarify instructions. So here's some ways to do it. And so the scenarios were really, really tangible for my kids because we got to work through it. Sometimes I'd ask them a question, they'd be like, I don't know. I was like, well, let's think about this. Would you do this or this? And they get to pre-think some stuff, which I think is just so good for this age, is to work through a scenario before it actually happens in real life, and that'll give them more confidence if that ever happens to them. So I just really appreciated that. I don't know what it is about this curriculum that just made it feel really designed for children and accessible to them, very accessible to me as a teacher so I could teach it well. And so all that to say, my plans going forward are to use this as my primary curriculum, and then to pull this in and integrate the scripture, the biblical lessons within the character first education. I can do that. That's very easy to do. So I'm by no means saying that this is a bad curriculum. I am still holding on hope to the idea that they just need to be a little bit older and we can have better discussions. But for now, this has been my solution. So I would love to hear your thoughts on either of these curriculums. If you have used them, please share below. Or please also share, how do you do character study in your homeschool? Do you do it? Do you want to do it? How have you been successful at it? I would love to hear any of your thoughts on this topic. And yeah, I just love making these curriculum reviews. I have a number of other ones on this channel. I'll put up the playlist I have for all my curriculum, including curriculum reviews and things like that. So yeah, that is what I have for this video. Thank you for stopping by and watching it. And yeah, please consider liking the video, subscribing if you aren't already subscribed, and I will see you in the next homeschooling video. All right, have a wonderful day. Take care.